In this episode, we'll be turning our focus from Greco-Roman culture to Jewish culture, as we find it in the late 1st and early 2nd centuries, and the Christian culture that emerges from it. Because the truth is that Christian thought did not come primarily out of Greco-Roman culture, but out of Jewish culture. In 1st century Jewish thought, we don't find the dichotomy between body and soul which had so powerfully influenced Roman thinking. Rather, Jewish society was concerned with the state of the heart. You either have a heart of stone or a heart of flesh. If you read Old Testament prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah, this kind of language is everywhere. The narrative from these exile-era prophets is that God is pained by the unbelief and stiff-neckedness of his people, and he describes them countless times as being hard-hearted. But at the same time, he promises to transform their hearts and attitudes. If you look at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 33, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." Or Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26, "And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh, and give you a heart of flesh." So in Jewish thinking, the focus was on the heart, and there was an understanding that the heart could be divided against itself. In practical terms, they looked at one's relations with one's neighbor as one of the prime indicators. Are you living harmoniously alongside your neighbor? This is an indication of a heart of flesh. Do you quarrel with your neighbor? You may have a divided heart, or one of stone. Jewish society in the 1st century also sees a resurgence of sexual restraint. One of the things that occurs is the formation of all-male celibate communities who would live together and pursue together this singleness of heart. Part of their living apart from women was the idea that women were one of the main causes of double-hearted behavior. They also were communities free from slaves, so as to not provoke arrogance in the hearts of the community. All this was a part of a resurgence and reassertion of what one might call Old Testament sexual morality. Alongside this novelty was the powerful reinforcement of marital norms inside the Jewish community. Likewise, in Christian communities, though we see some Christians who have renounced sexual activity in the 1st century, the vast majority of them were parts of households. When it comes to Jesus, it wasn't seen as a strange thing that he was single. He was a prophetic figure, and it was the norm for would-be prophets to be celibate. But Jesus didn't preach the destruction of family structures and the formation of these gendered celibate communities. Rather, he reinforced Jewish law, at times making it even harsher. True, he did call some to a radical life away from family, and out of this, we see poor, wandering would-be prophets in this world. As an interesting side note, around the year 90, the Emperor Domitian managed to track down Jesus' relatives in Palestine. He found 2 grandchildren of Jesus' brother living as poor farmers working the earth. As they didn't seem to be part of any impending political uprising, he just let them be. The disparity between the body-soul paradigm of the Romans and the divided, united heart paradigm of the Jews is brought into a sort of synthesis for the Christians by the Apostle Paul. He presents a dichotomy between spirit and flesh, describing the body itself not as evil, but as being largely under the dominion of the flesh, an apparatus which tries to steer the body towards all kinds of sinful behavior. Paul, informing the culture of Christian communities, forbids former pagans from physical badges which would distinguish them from their previous identities. Foremost amongst these badges is the mark of circumcision. Because sexual renunciation in late antiquity is a central focus of the series, we ought to summarize the Christian attitude towards celibacy in our current period, the late 1st and early 2nd centuries. The concept of celibacy was used by Christian thinkers to cut across disparate cultures, because despite all the many differences between cultures inside the Roman Empire and beyond, all people from all societies and all periods understand sexual desire. The idea of celibacy could be understood perhaps similarly by all the cultures to which Christians ministered. Now, by the year 150, Jewish and Christian thinking diverge. The Jews focusing on the physical community and the Christians on eternity. For Jews, the problematic aspects of the body were things to be reined in, subjected to rule. That is why they adopted their famous focus on the book and on the passing on of knowledge to adolescent males. When it came to sexual desire, this could be reined in by restricting it to marriage. The Christians, unlike the Jews, believed that the end was nigh. The things of this world were just about to pass away, and they would be ushered into a new eternal society, free of both birth and death, and of the body as we know it. That is why Christian thought leaders began to embrace celibacy, as parts of looking away from the things of this world and straining towards the imminent transformation.